Okay, we'll look at some of the homework problems that are in section 6-2. Let's start with number 1, where we're doing 5/18 minus 1/15. So here we have a subtraction of two fractions here. Now I'm writing this vertically so that you can see how this is going to be done. Now what I'm going to do here is, since the denominators are different, I'm going to find the least common denominator for 18 and 15, which is in this case, it's going to be 90. So 90 would be the least common multiple, or the least common denominator. And then we're going to write equivalent fractions from those two denominators. Here, 18 would go into 95 times, so I need to multiply 5 times the 5 up here, which would be 25. Because if I want to make this a 90, I have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 5. And for 1/15, if I want an equivalent fraction with the common denominator of 90, I need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 6. So 1 times 6 will be 6. And then we'll subtract 6 from 25. That would give us 19. And bring down the denominator. So here 19/90 would be the fraction for 5/18 minus 1/15. Okay, so 5/18 minus 1/15 would be 19/90. Number 2 is to change the following fraction to a mixed number. Here we want to change 25/4 to a mixed number. So in this case here we can do a division by dividing 4 into 25. And of course 4 goes into 25 6 times. And that means we're going to have 1 left over. So the 6 will be your whole number. The 1, which is your remainder, that's going to be the numerator. And of course that divisor, of course, will be your denominator. So here 6 and 1/4 is the equivalent fraction, or the equivalent mixed number, or the improper fraction, 25/4. Okay, problem number 3. Change the following mixed number to a fraction in the form a/b, where a and b are integers. So now we got 6 and 1/9. We're going to change that to an improper fraction. That's basically what that problem is saying. So to do that, we take the denominator, which is 9, multiply by the whole number, and then add the numerator. So if we multiply 9 times 6, that would give us 54. And then 54 plus 1 would be 55. And that 55 would be over the denominator of 9. So 6 and 1/9 as a improper fraction will be 55/9. All right, problem number 4. The following ruler contains segments marked MATH. Use mental math and estimation to determine which segment contains the fraction 22/8. Okay, using a little estimation here, I know 22 is a little bit more than 18. So if you divide 18 into 22, I know it's going to go 1 time. So I know the fraction is going to be 1. I know 1 whole with something left over, probably 1 and 4/18. And I know 1 and 4/18 has to be between 1 and 2, which is in this area right here, which is going to be M. So here, the fraction 22/18 falls in the region M, because 22/18 is a little bit more than 1. All right, problem number 5. A parent died and left an estate to 4 children. One inherited 1/3 of the estate. The second inherited 1/6. The third inherited 1/3. How much did the fourth inherited? Okay, well, let's do this. I'm going to add 1/3, 1/6, and another 1/3. And then subtract that from the 1/2. That will determine what the fourth child inherited. Well, 1/3 and 1/3 I can easily add together. That's 2/3. So now I have 2/3 plus 1/6. And now what I need to do here is find the common denominator of 3 and 6. That's simply going to be 6. And then write an equivalent fraction for 2/3, which will be 4/6. And the 1/6 will remain the same. So here, if I add 4 6 and 1 6, you're going to get 5 6. So the 3 children inherited a total of 5/6 of the estate. Now the estate represents 1/2. So if I subtract 5 6 from a whole, I'm left with 1/6. So that means that the fourth child had to have inherited 1/6 of the estate. Or you could draw an illustration of 6 equal parts, and you can see that the 3 children inherited 5 6. That means that 1/6 will have to be left over for the fourth child. All right, number 6 is another word problem that deals with fractions. A clerk sold 3 pieces of one type of ribbon to different customers. One piece was 7 and 25 or 27 yards long, another was 7 3/4 yards long, and the third was 1 6/9 yards long. What was the total length of that type of ribbon sold? Okay, so now we got 7 and 25 over 27 yards for the first, and then 7 3/4 yards for the second, and the third was 16 and 1/9 yards. So now we're trying to find the total length. So we're going to have to add those lengths together. Okay, now this is going to be kind of hard here because I'm going to group the 7/25 and the 16 and 1/9 yards. Because I know the common denominator for 9 and 27 is 3. I'm sorry, it's 27. Then I'm going to bring down the 7 3/4. Now I'm going to write an equivalent fraction for 1/9 with a common denominator of 27, which will be, in this case, 3 over 27. And the 25 over 27 stays the same. Now add 7/25 over 27 and 25 over 27 to 16 and 3 over 27. You're going to get 23 and 28 over 27 plus 7 3/4. But notice 28 over 27 is a improper fraction. So I can divide 27 into 28. That's going to go one time. Now I'll add that 1 to the 23. That would be 24. But we do have 1 left over. So it'll be 24 27s plus 7 3/4. Now we have to find the common denominator for 27 and 4. In this case, it will have to be 108. And an equivalent fraction for 1 over 27 with a common denominator of 108, I have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 4. So it'll be 4 over 108. For 3/4 with a common denominator of 108, I have to divide the numerator and the denominator by 27, which will be 81 over 108. Now add 27 and 7, you'll get 34. Add the 4 and the 81, you're going to get 85 over 108. And that's going to be my answer for for this particular problem, 34 and 85 over 108. So to answer that question, I'm sorry, this should be 31. Okay, I had 27, that should be 24. So 24 plus 7, that's 31, and 85 over 108. So here, to answer that question, 31 and 85 over 108 would be the total length of that type of ribbon sold. And number 7, Terry worked 15 and a half hours over a 3-day period. If she worked 3.5 hours the first day and 6.25 hours the second, how many hours did Terry work on the third day? Okay, let's add the number of hours that she worked on those 2 days. 3.5 plus 6.25. Now here the common denominator of 2 and 4 is simply going to be 4. So here an equivalent fraction of 1/2 is 2/4, and the 1/4 will stay the same. So add 2/4 and 1/4, you're going to get 3/4. Add 3 and 6, you're going to get 9. So Terry worked 9 3/4 hours on the first 2 days. But over a 3-day period, she worked 15 and a half hours. So we want to find out how many hours did she work on that third day. So now we have a subtraction problem. 15 1/2 minus 9 3/4. Now, I'm going to work this subtraction problem a little bit different. I'm going to change 15 1/2 to an improper fraction as 31 over 2 minus the 9 3/4. I'm going to change that to an improper fraction of 39 over 4. And then from there, find the common denominator for 2 and 4, which is, of course, 4. Now, the equivalent fraction for 31 over 2 with a denominator of 4 will have to be 62 over 4. I have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. And, of course, I can bring down that 39 because that 4 is your common denominator, and it's the same. So subtract 39 from 62, you're going to get 23 over 4. And then as a mixed number, divide 4 into 23, you're going to get 5 with 3 left over. So here, 5 3/4 is the amount of hours that Terry worked on the third day. So to answer that question, Terry worked 5 3/4 hours on the third day. All right, number 8. We're going to let f of x equals x plus 5 6. Find the output if the input is given, or find the input if the output is given. All right, in this particular problem, let's say if the input is 0, then the output is going to be what? Well, our input is going to be 0, so we're going to let x be 0 in this case here. So here, the output will be 0 plus 5 6, which is going to be simply 5 6. All right, now if the input is 6/5, that means 6/5 plus 5 6. Now in this case here, we got two unlike denominators here, so we need to find the least common denominator of 5 and 6. That's going to be 30. So now in this case here, an equivalent fraction for 6/5 with a common denominator of 30, we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 6, which will be 36. And for 5 6 with a common denominator of 30, we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 5. So now I have 25 over 30. So 36 over 30 plus 25 over 30, we just add the numerators. That'll be 61 over 30. And we'll leave that as a simplified fraction. All right, the next one, if the input is negative 5, 6. So we replace the x with negative 5, 6. And then that'll be plus 5, 6. Well, negative 5, 6 plus its opposite is simply going to be 0. So negative 5, 6 plus 5, 6 is 0. So the output will be 0. Now let's look at this. If the output is 1, then the input is what? So now our output is the f of x. We're trying to find out what x is, which is our input. So if our output is 1, that means we're going to have this. 1 equals x plus 5, 6. And that means we're going to have to think of what number plus 5, 6 will give us an answer of 1. And that means we're going to have to do 1 minus 5, 6. Now you're going to have to think of this. 1 whole, as with a denominator of 6, would be 6 over 6. Minus 5, 6 would be 1, 6. So in this case, the input has to be 1, 6. And you can check to see if that answer makes sense. So here, 1, 6 plus 5, 6 will be 6 over 6, which is 1 whole. So 1 whole will be your missing input. Now let's say the output was negative 1. So now we're trying to find negative 1 is equal to x plus 5, 6. In other words, some number plus 5, 6 will give us negative 1. In this case, we have to do negative 1 minus 5, 6. And again, just like 1 whole, that's 6 over 6, negative 1 would be negative 6 over 6 minus 5, 6. Now, negative 6 minus 5 would be negative 11 over 6. So here, the input would be negative 11 over 6. And you can check to see if that makes sense. Negative 11, 6 plus 5, 6 would give you negative 6 over 6 or negative 1. And then if the output is 1/3, the input is what? In this case, we got 1/3. That's equal to x plus 5, 6. That means we need to find out that x is equal to 1/3 minus 5, 6. And we want to find out what that's going to be. So in this case here, the common denominator of 3 and 6 is 6. The equivalent fraction of 1/3 would be 2 over 6. And then we can bring down that 5. So it'll be 5 over 6. Now you have 2, 6 minus 5, 6, which is negative 3, 6. Now they want you to type this as a simplified fraction. So negative 3 over 6 in simplest form is actually negative 1/2. So do be aware of that because they want you to type in that answer as a simplified fraction, meaning the fraction needs to be written in simplest form. So negative 3 over 6 would be negative 1/2. And then finally, number 9, estimate as either 0, 1/2, or 1. Here, 8 over 153. Okay, now you have to look at your numerator to see if that number is anywhere close to 0, 1/2, or 1. In this case here, 8 over 153. We can't say 1 because that numerator is not as close to your denominator. And we can't say 1/2 because the numerator is not about half the denominator. I know 153 is like 76.5. And 8 is nowhere near 76.5. But 8 over 153, it'll have to be close to 0. So If we estimate 8 over 153, that'll be close to 0. Okay, so this should assist you with some of the problems that are on the MyMathLab homework.